But the broad point you make about preventative model is hugely important, because for us, picking the NHS up and putting it on its feet, which we will have to do and we will do, is not enough. We need to change the model so that it's fit for the future. That means
NHS fit for the future. Got there eventually, chat. Tick off NHS fit for the future on your bingo cards.
Means much more local to people, so it's not just go to your GP or go to A&E, and it means much more use of AI and tech. On preventative...
Using AI. There you go. Didn't take very long.
I think I saw from the Commission's draft report already what they have to say about dentistry.
Oh, true. We did get 14 years. We did actually indeed get 14 years. You're absolutely right. So you can take off 13 years of Tories, which was the old one, because it's now 2024. How long have we been doing this for, chat?
Really, important stuff.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was shocked, really shocked, and I know politicians say that all the time, when I learned that the most common cause for 6 to 10-year-olds to go to hospital is to have their teeth taken out because they're decaying. I was shocked, and when I was in Alderhay, I was in awe at what they were doing, obviously in heart surgery, but I was really angry that in that hospital, the commonest cause for children coming in, young children, is to have their teeth taken out.
So would you be brave enough to introduce a sugar tax then? Because that would be one of the best ways to solve, as you say, a problem that made you very angry.
I don't think...
I mean, there's already a sugar tax, and it's already massively decreased the amount of sugary drinks that people are drinking. I mean, to the point at which a lot of drinks manufacturers have just taken out sugar and replaced it with sucralose. I mean, Dr. Pepper does not taste the same anymore because it's not got a high sugar content, because it's been deliberately manufactured with sucralose as a replacement to bring the sugar content down so that it doesn't get taxed on. I mean, I still drink normal Coke. I still drink it because I prefer the texture of drinking it. But overall, people just have less contact with sugar nowadays. I hate all sugar-free drinks. I hate the taste of aspartame.
Sugar tax is the way forward. I do think advertising is the way forward. I do think on
dentistry... So a cartoon ban, potentially?
I think on dentistry in particular, what we've said is there should be supervised toothbrushing, which could be done at school in the breakfast clubs that we want to set up. Now, that provoked a backlash of people saying, surely that's the job of the parents. And of course, the first duty of the parent is to...
No, nobody, there was not really a backlash for saying that that's the job of the parent. The backlash was, this is so dumb, right? Sure, the plan isn't bad, but the broad-scale access to dentistry is the actual issue here, not these, again, this tinkering around the edge plans.
We've all done it. I've got 2 children. It is to get the teeth clean. But the price of it not being done shouldn't be a 6, 7, 8-year-old losing their teeth, or the brilliant staff at Alderhay spending their time pulling teeth out instead of the other things they could do.
Why not look at sugar then?
Well, I think we've got to take this in stages. We've got what we want to do in breakfast clubs. We've got what we want to do on advertising. But the preventative model goes, this has to be a key principle of a reformed NHS.
So maybe...
But we do have to... wherever you look, we've obviously been discussing the health service, immigration, asylum, everything this government has touched in the last 14 years has ended up broken. And that's why I think, as we go in, 2024 election year, as we go into that election year, it is, undoubtedly the mood across the country that we need change. Nobody feels better off now than they did 14 years ago. Nobody thinks anything's working better. Nobody thinks that...
Delivering change, there you go. I'll give you delivering change for that one.
This failed government can provide the change. Labour has changed. Nobody
Labour's
argues
changed.
when I say...
No, we've changed Labour. Do I not have it on mine? Yet another one I don't... Oh, there we go. I have it on mine. There we go. It's on the left. Sorry. False alarm.
We are a fundamentally different party to the party that fought the election in 2019,
well,
and we've got a plan to change the country.
Let me bring you to that, because we asked a group of people, YouGov asked a group of people for Times Radio, a range of questions, things like who would be best in a crisis, for example, who keeps their promises, and we gave them a choice of you or Rishi Sunak, the 2 choices. In every single one of those 9 questions, voters said neither of you. They didn't want either of you. Does that worry you?
Look,
if you're asking on sticking to plans or breaking promises or being untrustworthy or knowing what they stand for, having charisma or being likeable at all, of course they chose not Sunak or Starmer. Have you met or listened to either of them speak? Have you seen the amount of things they've reneged on, the promises that they've broken, the lies that they've told, the deceit that they've woven? Sorry, not lies, deceit. Being smart, I don't know what we call it now. Sparkling smartness, right? It's only lies if it's from the lying region of France. Yeah, of course, nobody likes either of them. Keir Starmer is just the least worst option under first past the post.
Go across the country talking to people day in, day out. They desperately want change. They want to know, do I get it? Do I understand what they're going through? Whether it's the parents in Alder Hay heart surgery, whether it's the many people who can't pay their bills. Do you get it? Have you got a plan to do something about it? And, you know, we can go round and round in circles with this poll and that poll, and this question says that, that question says this. The best way is to have the poll of polls.
But isn't it about trust? Isn't it actually about trust? Isn't it bigger than that? It's about that people feel that actually when they look at Westminster, they don't feel they can trust any of you.
Just two things about that.
Why? Yeah, of course you can't trust Keir Starmer because he doesn't stick to any plans and he lies to people constantly and he's continually flip-flops and the Tories are right to point it out. I mean, I agree with what you're saying there, Nicola. I think obviously there are better options than Keir Starmer, but other people don't have a different conception of the way in which that you vote for the maximising utility. Like, I'm not saying that's what I believe, Nicola. You know me, you've watched this channel, you know I'm voting Green. But there are lots of people whose opinion of Starmer is that he's the least worst option under first past the post. That's why they're having to vote for him. They're not enthusiastic about doing so. I would want to change their mind into voting for the Green Party and trying to undermine the two-party system. But if they're already in the mind space of thinking it's two-party system, that's why they're supporting Starmer, not because of anything that he personally puts forward. That's the point that I was making there.
Firstly, I do think that for the government now to just cling on for as long as possible in 2024, when the
That's not answered the question, Keir, right? He's not answered the question. Where's the... There you go, not answering the question. Easy peasy.
country is crying out for change. You talk about polls, every poll I've seen says most people want an election earlier rather than later. Well, they don't say that if they want things to stay as they are. They say that because they want change. On your question of trust, because I do think this is a really important question, I think what has been broken in the last 14 years under this government are two things. And these are the biggest hurdles, I think, in politics at the moment. The first is those group of individuals say, I like what you're saying, Keir, what Labour is saying, but I just don't think it's possible to fix things anymore because things are so broken. Yeah. The second group, which you touch on, is the group that say, I like what you're saying, but I've lost trust in politics. I think...
Lost trust in you.
What do they like of what you're saying? They don't even know what you stand for. The biggest answer to what do you think Keir Starmer stands for is literally they don't know. They don't know what you stand for. They just want anything other than the Tories, right? Again, he just doesn't answer the question. Or just makes up groups of people that he can use as an example that don't exist to answer a question rather than answering the real question that he was asked.
We've got to, look, we've been in opposition. You know, if you look at what Boris Johnson did to, you know, trust in politics, it was huge. But you can see it. I mean, the self-entitlement of this government, by-election...
No, it's not about you, the government. It's about you. It's literally about you, Keir. Exactly, pot kettle.
Because people who were elected in as MPs, Tory MPs, thought they should have get peerages, didn't get a peerage until we've had a by-election. But that destroys trust.
Is scaling back your manifesto the way to deal with that, though? Because that feels to a lot of people like you're just... It's not very ambitious, it's not hopeful enough.
Well...
That's not about ambition, it's about the lies! It's about the lies, Kate! It's about the lies! It's about the fact that the guy's a liar! How many U-turns now? I say U-turns as if they were ever legitimate or sincere pledges to begin with. Because they weren't. They were lies and deceptions deliberately to try and get him into position so they could purge the people who voted for him. There were lies, Kate. It's not the lack of ambition or the lack of hope. It's the lies. And also that the positions now, it's not because they're not ambitious, it's they don't work. They're not what we need. The country needs change. And he's not even offering change. He's offering continuity conservatism.
Two things. On restoring trust, I do want and hope the election to be a reset moment where we can reset trust with proper understanding, properly enforced of the behaviour.
How? How can we trust you? How can we trust you? How can anybody trust you? If you can lie to your own party, what makes anybody think you can't lie to the electorate?
To be expected of politicians, changing what it means to be a politician. Politics should be about service, not self-entitlement.
Yeah, exactly. Service to who, though? PricewaterhouseCoopers, maybe?
But on that specific point about scaling back, is it the right time to scale back when the country is looking at all of you and saying, we're not fussed?
Well, we're not scaling back. I set out last year 5 big missions for an incoming Labour government, a decade of national renewal. So that's a project for 5 or 10 years. National renewal, reforming our NHS for the future. That's not a small project.
But it's not a policy. It's an ambition. I want to reset trust after the election. That's a good point, Ben. You're very specific. I can lie until the election's finished, and then I can be trustworthy.
Fastest or highest sustained growth in the G7, where living standards
Again, not a policy, that's an ambition.
rise across the whole of the country. That's not a small project. These are very big projects for the country.
They're huge. But you also promised Lords reform, and when you announced that you would do that, you said you were doing it to instill trust in politics. You said that it was the only way to get people to understand that the system had changed, and now you are scaling that back.
Yeah, U-turning. Not even abolishing the Lords anymore, just messing around with some of the peerages. And he literally said, I want to do this to restore trust in politics, and then completely reneges on it. So trustworthy. Or at least somebody from the journalism sphere is calling him out. At least there's somebody here who wants to hold him to account over this. But again, her framing as it being, well, she's not ambitious enough, rather than just being a complete 180 on positions that he said that he believed in morally and ethically.
I'm very concerned that we're going to inherit a very broken system. The economy is busted, public services are busted, trust is busted, and therefore we've got to pick things up and then take our country to a better place. That's a big thing to have to do. The reason I set out 5 missions is because
Five missions, there we go. Oh yeah, Tories crashed the economy. Yep, Tories crashed the economy, well done as well. Thank you very much, Rohak.
The way that can be done is if you've got a purpose-driven government, a government that says that's where we're trying to get to. We're not going to be blown off course.
He also said about growing the economy as well. So we got grow the economy in that too.
By side winds. I picked 5 missions because I thought they were the most important transformation of the country.
But you see,
just to me out, because it's really important too, because of the missions. That means that we have to be utterly focused on the 5 missions.
So is everything outside of those missions?
What kind of focus, Keir? What kind of focus specifically?
Is everything outside of those missions, it could be watered down or scaled back?
No, but what I am saying is we've got to be able to prioritise in government because of the difficult circumstances we'll inherit. I've set out my 5 key priorities, and I'm not going to be knocked off course. Yeah. And I've said a number of times publicly in my conference.
Oh, he did say, let me be clear. He did. Thank you, Ray. He did said, let me be clear. Thank you.
Speech, etc. There will be good Labour things that we won't be able to do as quickly as we'd like to do because we need to prioritise.
I need to ask you something specific. You've been forced to talk a lot about this £28 billion investment. It's your green investment policy. We know there has been a very public debate about that number. Would you like to set it out today, level with people today? What is going on with that policy?
Well, again, start with the 5 missions. What are the 5 things we want to achieve in government? Because you can only understand the investment argument by understanding that. We want to have clean power by 2030. That's one of the missions. It's difficult to achieve. What that means is a race towards renewables, gives us lower bills, energy security. So
I understand what you want to do, and I understand why you think that it's good. We all agree with the utility. We just want you to tell us that you're going to do it, and why you're going to do it, and how you're going to pay for it.
Can't put his boot on our throat, and it allows us to be in the race for the next generation of jobs, hugely important, and jobs that will be measured in decades, not days. In order to get there, we will need a number of things. We're going to have to get to grips with the tough decisions on planning, because planning gets in the way of that target. We're going to have a proper industrial strategy with our partners. We're going to have to deal with the grid, which is far too slow connecting up, and we're going to need investment. That's where the 28 billion comes in, that investment that's desperately needed for that mission.
Yeah, tough decisions as well. Blimey, absolutely knocking it out today. I've not got that on my card, but you might have it on yours.
And I've been unwavering in relation to the mission, clean power by 2030, and I keep getting challenges.
Bean Farmer has bingo.
From people saying, you're moving the date back. That mission of clean power by 2030, I haven't moved that date back at all. And I'm very clear we need investment to do that. We need to borrow to invest to do that. That's a principle I believe in, and I'm absolutely happy to go out and defend. And of course, what we've said as we've got closer to the operationalisation of this is that'll have to be ramped up. The money will have to be ramped up, the 28 billion, etc. And everything is, of course, subject to our fiscal rules.
Yeah,
fiscal rules. I mean, at least, again, we've now back round to saying that they're going to borrow the money and they're definitely going to do it. So we honestly, I don't even know what their position is on this at this point. Who knows? Who knows what Labour believe? They U-turn and change their position so often. Isn't it weird, chat? Isn't it weird? Don't you think it's a bit weird I mean, was it strange? There's a lack of trust in politics when we consistently don't even know whether the 28 billion figure is even on the table anymore. Because he just said that it was there, but it was briefed out the other week that it wasn't. And Jonathan Redwood said it was an ambition, but now he says it's a pledge. Who knows? Who knows whether they're doing it or not?
Clear. I mean, you've repeated that figure.
I've said that a number of times.
That's what people have asked you to do, but others in your shadow cabinet haven't. I think that's the problem, isn't it? And the reason I say that is because we did also ask our focus group what they would like to ask you. And Tim said, are you going to be like every other politician and go back on your word? And I think that is one of the concerns.
I think this is
true. We're creating a new relationship with the electorate. We're renewing trust in politics by sounding like every other politician and going back on our word before we're even elected. Before we're even elected, we're going to completely go back on like 90% of everything that we say that we believe in.
It's a very important question and challenge. The 5 missions I've set out are the what of
But true, actually, all of those promises being broken, it's not going to be an issue.
what I want to change. The what is it that you want to change? And why, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people know why we need an NHS that's fit for the future. People know why we need an economy that actually works for working people across the country, not just
Working
some people.
people.
Some parts of the country. The question then is to work out how do you get there. That's the job of government. And I'm a pragmatist. If I think, if I'm absolutely clear in my mind what it is I'm trying to achieve, which I am and have been, I think it's a really key feature of leadership, then, and someone says there's a quicker, different, better way to get there, then I'm ears to that. Of course, look, I came into politics later in life than many others. I was previously ran the Crown Prosecution Service. I was the chief prosecutor.
There you go. Director of Public Prosecutions. The free space never fails.
And I knew we had to reform, so I did.
True. We've not had ideology. He's not said ideological yet. He said he was pragmatic. He didn't say he wasn't ideological. So I'm just holding fire for 1 second.
Reform in the Crown Prosecution Service. The same challenges as I'll have if we get into government, which is people saying, don't do it, we've always done it this way, you know, why are you fixated on that change when you could do it another way? So I've done all that. Done it with the Labour Party, changed the Labour. People said you're not, when I took over, most people said, it is impossible to change the Labour Party to be in a position to win an election in 4 short years. We've done it, now we want the opportunity to do
they changed the Labour Party by waiting for Liz Truss to ruin the economy and then magically inheriting a gigantic poll lead whilst essentially getting rid of everything that people liked about the policy platform that people voted for in 2017. But he's definitely changed the party just to be pro-business, to be pro-capital, even so much so that they're now pro the financial sector, just like Brown was in the lead up to 2007. Went well, didn't it, chat? Went very well.
The same with the country, take our country to a better place with the same mindset.
We don't have a lot of time. I have a couple more questions.
It's the Leonard Nimoy moment from The Simpsons. My work here is done, but you didn't do anything, didn't I?
For you. I want to you just mentioned leadership and your character. I want to ask you something. You went to a school the other day and a group of teenagers asked you what would be the first thing you did if you were Prime Minister, and you said, I would make clear that our behaviour matters. I thought that was a really interesting thing that you said. How does that fit with some of the language you've used in the comments and some of the things you've said about the Prime Minister, which actually, I think it's fair to say, they haven't been quite true? How do those two things fit together?
Well, I think
Interesting wording for the question there. How do those two things fit together? I.e., in normal vocabulary, that would be, why are you being massively contradictory, Keith?
It was conveying to the children that mindset and behaviour really matter. Because
but your behaviour in the Commons matters. And actually, some people have said, well, you've made a reputation as being a man who's very wedded to the truth and being straight with people.
Yes.
But when you stand up in PMQs and you say things that aren't true...
Well, give me an example.
Well, I've got a...
Or when he says he believes in certain policy platforms and then actually doesn't actually believe in them and reneges on them when he becomes the leader. That's also an untruth. What's another word for untruth, chat? Chat. What's another word when you say something that's not true? It's being smart, right? It's just being smart. There you go. It's just being smart. Just being smart, chat. That's all it was.
A couple of examples. You said that Rishi Sunak was making millions betting the misery of working people during the financial crisis. Well, you said he'd made a video for Nigel Farage, which he hadn't. Hang on. You said he made a video for Nigel Farage.
I think the thing about the money that he made during the pandemic came from a Sunday Times story. Was actually the root cause of that.
Well, and actually, people have questioned whether or not it was accurate to say that he'd made it betting the misery of working people, or whether he'd made it in a market, in a business environment, which you have.
I would make sure our behaviour matters on day one versus I would end homelessness on day one. Change Labour Party indeed, Ben. Indeed. And again, the behaviour that he's changed it to is just the same crappy behaviour that we had before that people already hate because they already impugn him for engaging in that behaviour of deception and duplicity. They already impugn him for going back on his word. That was one of the questions that was literally asked in the focus group to the interviewer here in this very interview.
have said that Labour would encourage
Well,
people,
look, I
people
just think
to
that
make
totally
money.
misunderstands what people went through in the financial crisis. It was hell on earth for
But
working people
the point
who were
about-
going through complete misery,
and I think
the Prime
everybody-
Minister was making a lot of money.
And I think everybody would agree. But the point about Nigel Farage's video, for example, you said that he'd made a video for Nigel Farage and he hadn't made a video for Nigel Farage. And my point more is about whether or not it's you know, does it fit with your character?
No, I think it is worth you going back to Hansel actually and seeing exactly what I did say about the video about Nigel Farage as well, because I worded it very carefully.
But you worded it carefully because you knew you hadn't made it for
No,
Nigel Farage.
I worded it carefully because I wanted it to be accurate. But it is accurate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny. People do this all the time, whatever, like politicians do all the time, where they say, like, technically true things that they know people can get the wrong end of the stick of, and, like, whatever, that's just part of politics, really, truly. I'm not gonna impugn him for it.
Working people in their millions went through hell in the financial crisis. They're going through hell again in the cost of living crisis, and I'm very happy to stand at the dispatch box and be their champion and make that case.
So you're happy to, you're happy to sort of indulge in a bit of that kind of back and forth, because the Tories have accused you of working for a terror group. I mean, if it were me who had faced that, I would have been very frustrated about that accusation.
Well, look, I'm very proud of my legal record. I was a lawyer. I became a QC, obviously now Casey. I then ran the Crown Prosecution Service. I prosecuted more terrorists than Rishi Sunak has had helicopter rides.
It's more a point about the rough and
helicopter
tumble,
rides.
isn't it? Because some people are put off by that. They find that they don't like that side of politics. They find it just deeply uncomfortable.
Look, I mean, I want to go into this election.
I mean, I think that it's bad too. I think that this kind of political mudslinging is terrible. I like when we ran positive campaigns, like we did in 2017, was an explicitly positive campaign, and people gelled with that. People came into it and really liked the Labour Party for engaging in positive campaigning, in comparison to Theresa May and the Tories' very underhanded and dirty campaigning. And I think that was to Labour's, was to the Conservative Party's detriment during that election, being this people being nasty in the face of a positive campaign. But really and truly, what I actually want is good policy. What I actually want is the policy not to be shit. And the policy at the moment is shit. And the fact that none of this, no actual scrutiny of the policies here, but about stuff about sugar taxes and banning cartoons of junk food for kids. But when he said he had 5 missions, did the interviewer say, well, what are your actual policy prescriptions for getting towards those missions? Just no inquisition on this whatsoever. No interrogation on any of the practicality of the missions that they have. And then with the actual interrogation has come from, well, you said this one thing that wasn't quite true at the dispatch box. And whilst I think that it's bad for politics, is that really more important than how on earth he's going to deal with the homelessness crisis or the housing crisis or schools that are falling apart or what's happening in Israel and Gaza?
It brings me to my final question. Right, are you ready for this one?
I don't know.
If you had to choose a football manager that you were most like, who would it be and why?
Oh, well, that's actually an easy one.
I mean, luckily the interview has done my job for me in this one, so I can tick off awkward pop culture reference immediately. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment that helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.